Hello and welcome to Best Laid Plans. Today we're going over my goals planner for 2020. Hi, I'm Janae and I teach productivity that sticks. If you're interested in planning your perfect life, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. So what I'm using here is a Happy Planner Mini, mostly. Just some miscellaneous rings. I of course like rainbow colors and stuff, and I really absolutely loved this cover and I thought it would be perfect for my goal setting planner. And when I saw this, I just had to grab it. It's the first mini and the only mini actually I've ever bought. So what I've done here is I've put a copy of my vision board inside my planner. I've just printed this on some photo sticker paper. I actually have this in my bedroom, just right next to my bed as well. Pictures of, things that, places that I like to go, and some financial little pictures there. And then, some places that I would like to live or whatever. And I think it's important to have some sort of vision, things that, inspire your goals or bring your goals to mind. So the first thing I have in my planner are my lifetime goals or my clear vision. If you're new to setting goals or you don't have a real big picture in mind, like an end goal in mind, then I would really encourage you to do this. And if you go to my website, bestlaidplans.vip, watch that introductory video and then get access to the goal setting masterclass. And I go through methods of doing this in brainstorming your clear vision and your lifetime goals. This is basically how I would like to see my life ideally. This is how my life would look. All my goals, when I break them down, all lead toward this end idea in mind. So here I have taken these goals and I've picked goals I'll be working on this year. Almost all of them coincide directly with those lifetime vision goals. I have 10 different categories here. You can use more, you can use less. I've actually found I'm quite happy with these 10 categories. So these are my yearly goals, and then I further break these down into quarterly goals. Now here are my goals for the quarter. There are one or two in my yearly goals that are not in here that I don't plan on tackling until later on in the year, but almost everything is represented here. And then what I've done is I've broke them down into smaller goals that I think can be accomplished in a quarter or less. Now I've got a few extras here. I don't think I'll be able to accomplish everything, but this is the case of best laid plans. Now, if you do not have a plan for it, then it is most likely that you won't get much done. Just writing your goals on paper, even if you just shove them in a drawer and never look at them again, it gives you like an 80% better chance at achieving any of them than someone who doesn't take the time to actually work through and write them down. So you're already ahead of the game by writing things down. Now I have overplanned just a little bit. Do I think I'm going to accomplish all of this? No, but this is quite like how I plan my week and my month as well. I like to put extra in because if I'm on a roll and I'm really moving forward on something, I want to be able to take the next step without having to dig back into other goals or other worksheets and try to figure out what's my next step. Or perhaps I get burnt out on doing something if I want to work on something else. I've already got things prioritized here. Let me explain just what the goals are themselves. As you can see, I have different categories. And if you are familiar with the LDS Church's New Youth Goals program, they have their goals split out into spiritual, social, physical, and intellectual. So what I've done is I've split my 10 categories into these 4. So I've got career under intellectual. I put relationship and recreation under social. I put health, self-care, and environment under physical. And personal growth, self-development, contribution and legacy goals, and spiritual growth under the spiritual category. The next thing I did was rank myself on how I feel I'm doing on each of these areas. And that's what this number is on a scale from 1 to 10. You need to be rating yourself on each one of these. This helps when you're evaluating later to see how far you've come. Now, it's really important when you're evaluating goals that you don't look at the end, because, when I get closer on some of these, the goal changes. For example, lose 12 pounds. Even if I get that goal, the goal changes, and then I make a bigger goal, a better goal, and the horizon moves. So I need to look at how far I've come, and I will have my initial weight written down here. In fact, in the next couple of days, I'm going to weigh in for the beginning of the year. So I will write that down here, and then I will be able to see how far I've come. So whether I hit that goal or not, I know if I've made progress. The next thing I've done is I've decided which of these are goals that need to be broken down into action plans, goals that are fairly small that can just be put in my schedule, and then other goals that really need a tracker to see how well I'm doing. So for the scheduled goals, for example, schedule an evening time with my husband, I've written an S next to all of these. It's just basically things that I want to schedule in for this quarter. 3 bubble baths. Not sure if I'll be able to schedule that in advance, but these are things that just basically get written down into a schedule. I put a T next to things that I need trackers for. For example, working on my healthy habits. You can see that's under health and self-care. Reading every night to the kids, practicing the piano. That's where I have trackers to see how well I'm doing. So to see what progress I'm making, remember, you're not looking for perfection, you're looking to move forward. So I have 3 categories when I am tracking how well I'm doing on my habits and my trackers. So if I complete 20% of these little check marks that need to be filled in, then I consider that a minimum goal. I should at least be getting 20% of those. If I get 50%, that's my target. 50% is moving forward, it's doing really well in establishing new habits, and then 80% is outstanding. If I can get 80%, I know that I am really nailing it. It's like winning the gold medal, 80%. This is also a good way not to punish yourself if you're not perfect, okay? I'm not going for 100. 100% would be awesome. Sometimes I like to challenge myself if I do 100% on a couple of things to evaluate and see how that works for me. But at 80% across the board, that is just an outstanding achievement. So that's covered the schedules and the trackers. And then everything else, what I've done is I've numbered them in order of importance. Remember the minimum, target, and outstanding that I went over before. I've numbered my first 4 goals as minimum. I want to be concentrating on those the most. I think they're going to make the most impact. Then the next 4 would be the target. I think if I'm doing really well, then I should be able to accomplish not only the minimum, but the target goals. If I find that I need something else to fill in, or if I have time and I'm really going forward, then that's where I can add in those last 4 goals, and where I've labeled those with an O for outstanding. If I can get those done as well, then I don't know what I would do with myself. I mean, wow, that would be totally amazing to get 100% of your goals done, right? But I don't expect that. I'm looking at getting something done, something moving forward, and I know if I've got something on this list that it's going to move me forward to those lifetime vision goals, because these are what's developed out of that. So you can see how the schedule ones is that these are ones that I just need to pay attention when I'm making my monthly schedule, my weekly schedule, that I'm keeping these in mind, that I'm getting those into my schedule. What the trackers are, I make sure that I have a tracker for every one of these things into my weekly planner. For the larger goals, then those get broken down even further. Next in my planner, I have my daily mantra. I've got some of my routines written down here. And then my affirmations. These are things that I repeat to myself every day. That's why there's a tab here and I have easy access to them. Then the next tab are goal brainstorms. When you first start with the goal, you may have no idea where to go to start working on it. So you write your goal down and then just start thinking of anything you can think of, any resources you have, any training you think you might need to get, any books that you might want to look into, people that you might want to ask questions of, tasks that you think that you might need to accomplish, and you just start brainstorming and writing them down. If you have no idea what the next step would be, then after writing this down, it should be in this list somewhere, even if it's asking someone else what they think your next step should be. And then from these brainstorms, which I've already done for these goals, these have been, going on for quite some time. That didn't sound right. Obviously, they haven't been. I mean, what am I saying? I've actually accomplished some goals over my lifetime. But my brainstorms were electronic up until last year. So a lot of them just haven't been in here because they've gone directly into action plans. So this was a little schedule that someone made for me for a study guide, and I'm making sure that these go in my weekly as well. You'll see that it's under my spiritual growth goals. What I've done is I've got the goal number here, coincides with my BLP course launched. This is the number 1 goal. And out of my brainstorm, I've picked 15 action steps that I think need to happen in the order I think they're going to happen, or at least the 15 most important steps that I can think of to move this goal forward. And that's what goes here. I try to limit myself to 15 because you figure 90 days, 3 months, you've got a whole quarter, you get 12, sometimes 13 weeks in that quarter. 15 steps is more than enough to be getting on with. Because remember, a lot of these steps, as you start working on them, you'll find that they break down. Maybe you go into different rabbit holes. Don't be afraid to change things. That's why I have an extra page on the back, because when those change, or when they end up moving into extra goals or need to be broken down further, that way I have extra space. So I've done that with these two. In fact, this one was renumbered because it was farther down in the totem pole. So here's number 2. And what I thought I would do was plan out my number 3 goal so I can show you a little bit about how that works. This one used to be number 2. It is now number 4. You can see how I've done a lot of work on here and I've checked some things off. So this one, as I go over things, I will change that number to 4 and possibly add some more things to this list. So let's take number 3 out. So goal number 3, and I'm feeling like a pink day today, is lose 12 pounds. And just to take a moment, and I will show you that my yearly goal is lose 50 pounds. All right. So then I've broken that down into the first quarter to lose 12 pounds. And the things that I want to do that I think will help me accomplish this: 5 bottles of water per day. Bulletproof breakfasts. Basically, bulletproof hot chocolate, because I don't drink coffee. Or broth, because sometimes I will make a bulletproof broth drink for the morning. This helps me with intermittent fasting. It helps me continue the fast longer, but gives me enough energy to keep going so you don't get grumpy because you haven't eaten. Okay. No gluten or processed foods. No yucky chemicals. I know that gluten and processed foods contributes to inflammation, and it definitely does not make me feel good. So the more that I can reduce these foods, the better off I feel, and the easier it will be for me to lose weight. Movement or my vibration plate once per day. Practicing Kung Fu with my family. Eating bulletproof as much as possible. Bulletproof is a little bit like paleo, a little bit like keto, but there are definitely some distinct differences. Suffice it to say that it's low carb, and if I have carbs, they're in the evening, not in the morning. Definitely no gluten and no soy and a lot of other things that are eliminated. Trying to stick with the highest energy, highest nutrition, and the lowest toxin foods possible. Other ideas for movement and exercise, things that I love to do. Tai Chi, which is also part of teaching my family Kung Fu. We've actually started on that. It's been a lot of fun. I would like to find my Wii Fit discs. This ties in with my decluttering goal because I have no idea where these are. So hopefully I can find those and start working on those. Rebounding or walking on the trampoline. We had a really good routine that we did with the Wii Fit where we were running along with puppies and stuff on the little trampolines. I did it with my mother and my kids, and we had a lot of fun. I would hope that I can find the Wii Fit discs. What I've been doing is walking on my trampoline while watching television or watching some walking shows, that you're walking along different environments, different scenery, and that makes things more interesting. Now for this action plan, I'm not going to be doing a lot of work in the garden, so I can't really count that. A lot of housekeeping work. Can count as my movement. And also to fill out my healthcare spread. Because the more I'm tracking, the better I'm going to do. You see how this is working? I've got all these little action plans. Now, a lot of these, unfortunately, don't break down into I can do one this week and one next week and the one the following week. This is more of an idea. In fact, this, again, would be a tracker. This I've got a tracker for. This I've got a tracker for. It's already really broken down. There's nothing else to break it down. It's just something that, well, here it is. This is what you need to do. And in fact, I've actually put this on a tracker as well. So whereas some goals, it's easy. You say you have one task you can do this week, 2 tasks you can do the following week. This one doesn't lend itself to doing that quite so much. Let me show you what I've done here. The Kung Fu here is on a tracker. And that's because that's with my family, and that's where I tend to keep those. But everything else, here's my healthcare spread for the coming week. This glitter doesn't really lend itself to show you what's here, but what I've done is I track my water up here, my meals on the top, my movement here, my mojo. This is where I write down how I'm feeling every day, and I can use this and look back to see perhaps what I've eaten or what movements I did to see how that's affected me, and then any meds I take I put down in this bottom one. Up here I'm keeping track of self-care items, including my sleeping and fasting hours. And then here's my food tracker. So sensitivities that I have to food, I know I want to avoid the red as much as possible, pretty much at all costs. orange as much as possible. The yellow ones I can have every second or third day without a problem. So that's why I have this here. Again, if I'm tracking, it makes it easier for me to figure out what things are going on inside my body based on what I'm moving, what I'm doing, and what I'm eating. And you see these little dots here. This is Christmas, and then this is a Christmas party. So I'm not sure how my meals are going to end up those days. I do have some charcoal pills I can take to help mitigate some of the damage, because there's always some processed foods that ends up in potluck dishes and things like that. So when I've broken this down, I put these back in here, and then I input them into my planner as I just showed you. So let me show you what I'll do with this one. Let's put a number 4 on here, because this is now goal 4. Now I don't like to cross things out. I like to be able to see what's there. So I've added a couple of things already to this list. And so when I'm making my schedule, what I will do is I will pick the next thing. I'll look at this list, I'll pick the next thing or the next logical step or the thing that I'll think that makes the most impact. And then I've got my other goals that I need to do. This was number 4. It has now been pushed back to, I think it's 11 or something. But since I've already had it there, I broke it down and then it's there. I mean, your goals changed, your life changes, importance changes, so don't be afraid to do that. And this is where I write down my execution. If you're having trouble spacing these out, I mean, this is a lot of action plans. I've got 12 goals here, and you can see that I've got 3 or 4 action plans ready to go. When you've got 12 of them, then sometimes it can be a little more difficult. As I'm planning my week, I always look over these to see where I am and try to pick something on these to accomplish. But it can help also to write down a 90-day execution. So I've got a page for every week. I've got a room for 12 pages here. Of course, I have extras. And what I will do is I will mark week 1, and I will find one step, sometimes 2, but usually just one step out of every action plan and put it on this list. Now I limit it. 25 is actually pushing it. You kind of don't want more than 15 or 20. So if you figure you're working 7 days a week, 3 items per day, that's 21, and that's more than enough, especially if you want a day off. So you're looking at 18 really is your ideal number here, because that way if I've got 18 items, 3 items per day, boom, there are my priority items to work on for every day of the week. For example, I've got one filled out from last quarter. So here was week 8. I wrote down 1 or 2 things off of every goal sheet, and you can see if I did a little bit of work on that, I worked on that for 5 days. It looks like there was 4 days, and then the 5th day I accomplished it. It doesn't look like I checked it off. So this is a list that I work off when I am planning my week out. I like to take these now, and where I wasn't doing this before, I think this is from 3rd quarter, I like to plug these into my week, and then I'll work off that list. So here is where you take these and then you can break them down even further if you need to. So where I said build course site, as I wrote that down, I wrote down some other things that I knew needed to be done. That's why I like leaving 25, because sometimes you'll break these down into smaller steps and it makes it a little bit easier. That's why there's more room here. Try to keep yourself limited to about 18 things, 3 things per day. That ensures that you're going to be able to accomplish a lot. Remember, we're going for at least 20%, or the minimum. All right. 50% of these target, and then 80% outstanding. Even if we don't get to 100%, it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to start with, see where I've numbered the goals here. I want to start with my number 1 goal and then move on from there. And then you can actually put the days in here if you want. I normally just plug these into my weekly schedule. And then back here, see there's some brainstorm pages here. Back here are just extra sheets that I keep. So I hope that has helped some of you figure out maybe a way to start writing your goals down. I mean, everybody is different. I don't think you need to buy a $60 planner to do your goal setting in and your action plans in. I think just a notebook. I like this one because I can actually pull the pages out and put them in and, move them around. But any notebook is fine to start, even if it's just a spiral notebook. You start from the beginning. Just start brainstorming your goals, break them down into categories, and then break them down into shorter terms. Go for yearly, go for quarterly. Take those quarterly goals, figure out what are goals that need action plans, what are goals that need scheduling, what are goals that need a tracker, and then input those into your planner system. All right, and then take those that are actual goals, number them in order of priority, and then you start breaking them down. You start breaking them down into a brainstorm first. What are all the things that you can think of that could apply to that goal, that might move that goal forward? And then you take off of this brainstorm and you pick for your action plan for this quarter 15 action steps. Try to pick the ones that you think you have the most impact, or things that you think need to be done first. And then you go from there. Remember, this will hardly ever remain the same. You may have to reorder things. Some things may get crossed out. Other things may be added in. Some things just may be broken down into more steps. That's okay. Don't be afraid to change. Goals are not set in stone. And then maybe the goal itself changes. All right. There's a goal, like I said, that was number 4 last quarter that is now number 12, because there's other things that have become more important that push that on the back of the list, as I don't think it's going to have as big of an impact as these other goals. And then from your 90-day action plans, from all of your goals, you're going to make an execution list for each week. If you want to see how these spread out, I mean, some things are really small. These little scheduled things, I can probably do that, and most of these things are done in one evening. This one has its own little schedule sheet, and this is a weekly, and it's going to make sure that I make time for that each week in my schedule. Those things coming off of your action plan are the main things that are going to be going in here. And remember to limit yourself to about 18 at the most, but try to pull 1 or 2 things off of each action plan. And start with your number 1 goals and work your way down. Above all, do not beat yourself up for not getting them all done. Remember, writing them down is number 1. If you do nothing else, writing them down has put you ahead of the game because your brain is in it. It's going to bring in opportunities because now you're aware of where you want to go and things that you want to look for. So even just writing it down, okay? And then starting from goal 1, and if you get, remember, 20%, the minimum 20%, if you can get 20% of your to-do list for the day, then you're doing really well. And it also helps, remember, if you're setting priorities at night for the next day, set your top 3 things that you want to accomplish for the next day. And I'm a big proponent of doing it the night before. After your work day, or if you work at home, after your day is done, that is the ideal time to think about the next steps of where you left off and the things that you need to accomplish the next day. That way, when you wake up in the morning, that decision has already been made. You don't have to waste your best decision-making power deciding what those things are in the morning. You've got your primary decision-making reserved for diving into those most important tasks that you've already selected, already done, already decided, and they're already in your action plan. They're already in your execution. So this is how I like to do it. I said everybody's different. You can do this in a regular notebook. You don't need anything specialized. I've got blank sheets like this, but I just typed them and just printed them out so I can have a hard copy, because I like to be able to take this with me to my bedroom, outside, just to review. I like to have my affirmations and my daily schedule and my daily routines available in case I need to refer to them. Hopefully this helps you in planning your perfect life for 2020. And I'll hope to see you on the next Best Laid Plans. Did I cover all of that? I have no idea. I think I missed one. I can show you the ones from January. The ones for January. No, I can't. I don't have it.